Intense and heroic, the pacing reflects the battle's rhythm, with pauses that invite thoughts on life, death, and pride. From the sun-drenched plains of Phthia, a name echoes through time, not merely as a man, but as a legend forged in the crucible of destiny: Achilles. He was like a storm brewing, a fire that could warm or burn. He was born of a goddess, Thetis, and a mortal king, Peleus, a duality that defined his every breath, his every step towards an inevitable horizon. His early years were shrouded in prophecy, a tapestry woven with threads of glory and grief. The fates, those relentless weavers of existence, had already spun his tale long before his infant cries pierced the Aegean air. He was a vessel for greatness, an instrument of war, yet within him stirred the profound human question of what it truly means to live, and more acutely what it truly means to die. The whispers began early, carried on the salt-laced winds from the sea. Two paths lay before him, stark and unyielding. One offered a long, tranquil life, far from the thunder of war, a life lived in the quietude of days stretching into years, filled with the simple joys of family and peace. The other, a blinding flash of glory, a name etched into the very firmament of history, but at the cost of a swift, unceremonious end. This choice laid bare before a boy, barely a man, was not a mere philosophical musing. It was a living, breathing current that surged beneath his skin, shaping his nascent understanding of self. It was the fundamental dichotomy that would define his entire, tragically brief existence. As the shadow of the Trojan War lengthened across the Hellenic lands, the call to arms became an irresistible siren. Agamemnon's rallying cry, a promise of vengeance and plunder, drew heroes from every corner. But for Achilles, the lure was deeper, more primal. It was the siren song of destiny, the echo of the prophecy that had haunted his cradle. To remain behind would be to deny his very nature, to turn from the storm that raged within him, demanding release. His spirit, a fire banked but ever burning, yearned for the proving ground of battle, for the stage upon which his legendary prowess could be displayed. Pride, that double-edged sword, began to hone itself in his soul. It was not a vulgar arrogance, but a deep-seated conviction in his own extraordinary capabilities, a desire to leave an indelible mark upon the world. He envisioned himself not merely as a warrior, but as an artisan of war, sculpting victory with his spear. The journey to Troy was not just a physical voyage across the shimmering sea, it was a descent into the heart of his own ambition. The ships cutting through the waves were vessels of fate, carrying him towards a destiny he knew, yet dared to challenge. Upon the blood-soaked plains beneath the formidable walls of Ilion, the true scale of his choice unfurled. Each clash of bronze, each roar of triumph, each wail of despair, affirmed the path he had chosen. His might was undeniable, a force of nature. He moved through the ranks of men like a god, a whirlwind of steel and fury. His very presence on the battlefield struck terror into the hearts of his enemies and instilled courage in his allies. He was the swift-footed, the bravest of the Achaeans, the very embodiment of heroic excellence. The glory he sought was not an abstract concept. It was a tangible thing, forged in the heat of combat, burnished by the blood and sweat of countless encounters. Yet even amidst the roar of battle, even as glory was heaped upon him, the internal struggle persisted, a quiet counterpoint to the orchestral chaos of war. Moments of reflection, stolen between skirmishes, or in the silent vigil of the night camp, brought the stark reality of mortality into sharp focus. He saw men fall, brave and strong, their lives extinguished in an instant, their names fading with the morning mist. He knew his own fate was intertwined with theirs, a thread in the vast, tragic tapestry of human transience. This awareness, far from diminishing his courage, intensified it, giving a poignant urgency to his actions. If his time was to be brief, then let it burn with an unparalleled brilliance. Let his life be a supernova, brief but unforgettable. Pride, however, proved to be a volatile companion. It was the engine of his greatness, yet also the source of his profoundest sorrow. When Agamemnon, blinded by his own hubris, dared to dishonor Achilles by seizing Briseis, the war prize he held dear, the fire within Achilles transformed into a consuming rage. It was a wrath of epic proportions, a defiance that shook the very foundations of the Achaean camp. He withdrew from battle, a storm cloud turning its back on the plains it was meant to fertilize. His absence was a gaping wound in the Greek forces, a vacuum that no other warrior could fill. He chose to sit by his ships, watching the tide of war turn against his countrymen, consumed by a festering pride that overshadowed even the imminent destruction of his allies. This rage was not just an outburst of temper, it was a profound assertion of his worth, a demand for recognition that he felt was due to him, a demigod among mortals. It was a testament to the fierce independence that both elevated and isolated him. The shadow of his rage stretched long over the battlefield, bringing the Achaeans to the brink of defeat. Only when his beloved companion Patroclus donned Achilles' armor and fell beneath the spear of Hector did the storm within him truly break. This loss, more than any other, shattered the wall of his pride. It was a raw, visceral grief that transmuted his wrath from a sullen resentment into a blazing inferno of vengeance. The death of Patroclus reignited his ambition, but now it was an ambition steeped in sorrow, an unstoppable force driven by love and a thirst for justice. The choice he had made, to live a life of glory, now demanded its ultimate price. He knew that to avenge Patroclus meant confronting Hector, and to confront Hector meant sealing his own fate, fulfilling the prophecy of his early demise. He returned to battle, not as a mere warrior, but as an avenging god, cloaked in new armor forged by Hephaestus himself, shining like a star, a beacon of terror and hope. His rampage through the Trojan ranks was legendary, a whirlwind of death and destruction. The river Scamander ran red with the blood of his victims. His duel with Hector, the greatest of the Trojan heroes, was a clash of titans, an encounter steeped in both personal tragedy and the destiny of nations. He faced Hector not with joy, but with a terrible resolve, the weight of his friend's death heavy on his spear. The defeat of Hector was his ultimate triumph, a moment of unparalleled glory, yet it brought no true peace, only a fleeting satisfaction, quickly overshadowed by the profound emptiness of his loss. The subsequent desecration of Hector's body, dragging it behind his chariot around the walls of Troy, was a dark stain on his heroism, a testament to the brutalizing effect of war and grief. It showed the depths to which even a hero could descend, blinded by pain and a fierce, unyielding pride. Yet it was King Priam, Hector's father, who ultimately pierced Achilles' hardened heart, appealing not to his warrior spirit, but to his shared humanity, his understanding of a father's love and loss. In that moment, a flicker of light broke through the shadows of his rage, a brief pause for reflection on the common mortality that binds all men, hero and foe alike. He returned Hector's body, a grudging act of grace that hinted at the complex layers beneath his fearsome exterior. Achilles' story is not merely one of battle and valor, it is a profound exploration of human choice, the relentless pull between individual desire and the predetermined paths of destiny. He chose a short life of immense glory over a long life of quietude, and in doing so, he etched his name into the annals of eternity. His ambition was a consuming fire, his pride a towering wall, his rage a destructive storm. But woven through these powerful forces was a profound understanding of his own fleeting existence, a poetic acceptance of his mortality. He chose to burn brightly, knowing the flame would soon be extinguished, leaving behind an incandescent legacy. His tale invites us to ponder the cost of fame, the weight of a name remembered through millennia. What does it mean to be a legend? Is it a blessing or a burden? Achilles, in his tragic grandeur, exemplifies the human yearning for significance, the desire to transcend the inevitable oblivion of death. His choice, a defiant scream against the silence of forgetfulness, ultimately defined him. He lived a life so vivid, so intense, that even centuries later, his light still pierces the historical gloom, a constant reminder of the epic struggles that rage within the human heart. His is a glory that outlived the man, a beacon in the vast ocean of time. Even gods envy those who live without the burden of being remembered.